All right. Looks like we are up and running, so we'll go ahead and switch over to the retro layout, and we'll go ahead and get started for today. Alright, audio should be coming through. Up my headphone audio just a little bit. Alright, we are starting up a new playthrough today. And because it is officially Spoopy Month, I figured a good one to start off would be what I consider a really underrated classic from the SNES library. This is Demon's Crest. And I've talked a little bit about this game before. I think people have heard of it, but it's not usually mentioned among some of the other classic titles in the SNES library. And I think that's probably because it didn't get a huge marketing push back in the day, and I don't think a lot of people played it. But we're going to take a look at it here, so hopefully this will give people a good look into what I consider a really underrated and fun and interesting game. Hey, Sourlad's here. What's up, Sourlad? How you doing today? Alright, we'll go ahead and start from the beginning. This game does not have a save system. It has a password system, but we'll probably save by state in this session. Without any sort of initial prologue prompt, we're immediately tossed into what looks like an arena. And immediately facing off against a zombie dragon. The sort of opening story demo part that plays if you just let the title screen sit talks about how this game takes place in the realm of demons, and there's a great war for these items called the Crests that appeared in the demon realm and basically caused a civil war as all the demons fought amongst each other. Our character we're playing as is named Firebrand, who fought his way to the top of the pile to secure most of the Crests for himself. And then he ended up fighting what they call the Demon Dragon for the final one. And that's who we assume is this character that we just fought here, the big zombie dragon. And as Firebrand had secured his victory and was flying off with the Crests, he was ambushed by a different character we'll learn about a little bit later, who shot him in the back, knocked him out of the sky, and took the Crests for himself. Leaving Firebrand weakened, he was imprisoned by the character that betrayed him and basically branded as a criminal to the realm and thrown into the arena where we are here. And so we're busting out, and we're going to go out in the world and figure out what's going on. Starlat says, I'm good, and you? I'm good. It's kind of a somewhat busy Monday, but not bad. I get to play one of my favorite games. So I'm doing all right. All right, immediately we bust through the gate. We're out in this sort of courtyard, graveyardish area outside of the Colosseum. And as soon as we get far enough away, Sumalo pops his head out and says, I'm not done. Pretty much the only thing he can do is breathe fire. So if we hover, we stay out of range of the fire and just blast him in the face 3 times. And now he's dead. Little jewel with the skeleton hands. Those are your heart containers. Your life meter, which is partly obscured by my overlay, are the little red dots. As we get more containers, that meter will go up. Kind of Mega Man style, we're tossed in with no real explanation, just kind of a experiment as you go. This is an action platformer. We have basic movement, jump, shoot, and if we jump and hit jump again, we can hover. In the games that came before this, Firebrand could hover in the air, but he'd have a decaying descent, so he couldn't just sit there indefinitely. That's kind of new to this game, but it means his traversal options are better, and there's no meter or anything. You can just fly around and drop out by hitting jump. If we hit A, we have a headbutt, which interacts with certain types of environmental things and can break them. And now we head out into the graveyard, or the courtyard beyond the Coliseum, fighting zombie clansmen. Those things are money. And basically, our path is going to always be to the right in most cases. So we'll just keep heading to the next screen. If we jump up to a wall, kind of Mega Man X style, Firebrand can cling to walls. I mean, he can just sit here indefinitely. He doesn't slide. You can use this to scale things vertically. And one thing we'll see throughout Demon's Crest is that there's a lot of attention to detail in the set pieces and the music. The design and presentation of this game is really cool. One of my favorite things about it is that it's very kind of like dark gothic horror inspired and has a really cool soundtrack. Alright, breaking this statue gets us a vellum. These are spell scrolls which we can buy, and they'll give us active effects in battle. They're kind of supplementary. I tend to not use them because they're not super important, but we'll take a look at that once we can actually buy stuff. I might need to boost the music. Is the music too soft? I noticed that the sound effects were kind of loud when I was testing this, but now it seems a little bit low. I'm going to put it to about here. Let me know if this is either too loud or too soft for you folks to hear on stream, because this game has really good music. I want to make sure we're not losing that in the background. I think part of the problem is sound effects are a little bit louder. Starlight said you were louder than the game. Okay, is the game audio audible? Because I can up it some more. I'm showing that we're kind of low on game audio, so I could boost it a bit more. I'll put it just a notch higher, a little bit below 50%. Some of the other themes are a bit more higher energy, so we can actually test that here. We have our first mini-boss. This particular statue looks like all the others, but if we headbutt it, it actually wakes up gargoyle style. This is the Hippogriff. The Hippogriff is a winged creature that attacks by flying around. It'll try and run you over with that dashing attack. It can also shoot feathers at you, but if we just get in its face and blast it, it's pretty easy target. Kind of meant to show you the ropes of dealing with the target that moves a bit quicker. Okay, they're the feathers. Okay, after doing enough damage to the Hippogriff, it'll turn back to stone. And we headbutt it. Now it's dead. For our efforts, we're rewarded with another life container. Okay, moving out of the courtyard. Now we're heading towards the sort of cliffside. Heading further up in elevation. We have these sort of carnivorous plant hazards below that'll do damage. And these narrow platforms will crumble. So this is kind of meant to show you how air traversal works. If you wanted to, you can just get height and fly over everything. But you have to still line up your shots because you can't shoot in multiple directions. With this weapon, Firebrand can only breathe fire in a line straight ahead. I can't aim that. If we drop down here, here we have a potion vial. These will be useful later. Oh, can't climb that. There are 5 scroll vellums and 5 findable potion vials out in the world. So this diagram you see on the right, which is the demon's crest, that will get filled in as we collect different power-ups from different points in the game and bosses. And this is basically our inventory screen. There'll be different abilities to equip and get, and we'll see how Firebrand gets stronger. There's no experience levels or stats or anything like that. It's purely inventory based. But a lot of the gameplay is affected by the things you get. So we'll see that as we proceed as well. These sort of square bricks here are breakaways. If you try and grab them, they'll crumble, revealing those plant hazards that do damage. And here we have unbreakable bricks with our current weapon. There's going to be a lot of non-linear traversal and backtracking in this game. If you want to get the best ending, you have to get everything. And so we'll be spending our time kind of returning to previous locations once we get additional abilities to be able to go and pick up stuff we've missed. At the top of the cliffs, we hit our first major boss. He says, "I've watched your progress, and I'm glad that I shall be the one to put an end to your petty crusade. I believe you've heard of me. I am Arma. I will be your executioner." This is General Arma, who's one of the top soldiers under the main antagonist that backstabbed Firebrand earlier on. We'll find out his name is Phalanx. And Phalanx put Arma in charge of stopping Firebrand. And his moveset's kind of similar to Firebrand's in that he can fly around, spit projectiles. He's got this kind of dive bombing rush attack. And he's quick. But unlike Firebrand, he can move up and down. He's not locked into a horizontal path. But if we keep directing Arma into a path where we can actually shoot him, it's just a matter of dodging his abilities. And after we do enough damage, Arma says, "You do seem to possess the strength people have been talking about. I look forward to our next encounter." Hey, Edward's here. Edward says, "Buenos dias." How's it going, Edward? Welcome to the stream. So after a few one-liners, Arma takes off and he drops the first crest, which is the Crest of Earth. With it, you can morph into the G-Gargoyle and gain great speed and the strength to break stone statues. Alright, and upon leaving the Coliseum, we are taken to the map screen. This is essentially our hub for all the different spots we're going to go to in Demon's Crest. Let's see. Let's start. If we hit start, we zoom out to top view. We have a kind of dynamic mode 7 view normally when we're flying around, which is kind of neat. But this tells us all of the different areas we have access to so far. The Coliseum was area 1. We have 2, which is town, and we have 3, the jungle, and 4, or 3 might be the ruins, and 4 is the jungle. So kind of like a Mega Man game, since this is Capcom, we have the ability to pretty much traverse the map as we see fit. It's non-linear, but some areas are more difficult than others. And the Mode 7 scaling as you fly around is pretty cool. You can see it's a little pixely. This is an older game, but you can see the entire terrain as you fly around, and hitting Y swoops down to actually land at the points of interest. Let's go to town. This is the Demon Realm town. There's a bunch of merchants, people we can buy stuff from here. And it's also an actual level that when we walk past, we'll see an actual zone to check out. Here in town, you notice tons of windows. If we hit A, we can bust out the windows for cash. Currently, we have about 50 gold. Larger windows. Sometimes you'll get a cluster of items that pop out. I'm not going to do all the windows here, but this is a good place to farm money if you need to buy stuff. We have blocks we can't break yet. If we headbutt the doors, we can actually go in. This first one is a magic shop. Or this is an appraisal merchant. I think we can bring stuff here and he'll tell us what they do. Talismans hidden somewhere in this world. Okay. Down here, these talismans are passive items. As we find them, they'll give us different abilities, and we can take them here, I believe, and this old dude will tell us what they do. Here we have the Vagrant Demon, this kind of bum dude sitting here. He says, "Hey you, I haven't seen you around here before. Are you a stranger here?" "Sure. They say that the red demon known as Firebrand has risen. He nearly burnt the demon realm to ashes years ago. If Phalanx had not rescued us, we would all be dead thanks to that arrogant fool Firebrand. Take care of yourself." This guy clearly doesn't know that I am Firebrand. And basically, as a result of Phalanx taking over, he kind of convinced the realm that Firebrand was responsible for all the destruction, so everybody hates him. The Wise Man, Shop of Spells. Here's where we would buy things to put onto our scrolls. And these do different things. Well, we aren't worry about these for now. There'll be better things to spend money on later. Upon leaving any of the shops, all the windows return. We could either fly directly out to the left to the map, and then fly back in, and it resets everything. So that's why, if you need money to buy some helpful things, like up in that top shop we can't go to yet, you could farm in town. We don't need to do that for now. We'll just keep moving to the actual level. Oh, I can show off the talisman, or the crest we got. The Crest of Earth gives us the ground gargoyle, or G gargoyle they call it. When you equip one of the crests, Firebrand's physical form changes to match the element that he picked up. And each form has different abilities that are useful in different situations. Let me go over here. G gargoyle can't fly, and its projectile goes forward, and then when it hits the ground, it turns into kind of a shockwave, which does more damage than Firebrand's regular shot. In addition, instead of the headbutt feature on A, if we hit A, we get a lunge. And this lunge allows you to move. It's more of a dash, really. It allows you to move quickly, and then you can do kind of a running jump if you need the distance. Or, if you hit certain things, you can destroy them or knock them out of the way. And that's going to come in handy in a little bit. Oh, those do two? Okay, well. If you die, you turn into a skeleton, similar to ghouls and ghosts. You knock the fountains in the water, which creates some kind of floating platforms. If we go in the water, we'll just take damage. Firebrand cannot breathe underwater. But proceeding from here through town, we'll get this kind of... Ooh, that's gonna kill me. This kind of riverside setting with all of the town's buildings in the background, which is kind of neat. Oh, I didn't realize those do two points of damage. I'll just keep moving. Alright. Now here we have a branching path. If we hit the fountain out of the way, we get the entrance to a different level beneath the town, these kind of subterranean caverns. And ground gargoyles shots can't break blocks. Still need a different type of ability for that. Wow. And to toggle, we go into the inventory, to select one of the other abilities, and it changes Firebrand's form. There's no hot swapping. Oh. As we'll keep regular shot on for now, since we need to fly through this next section. As you can see, this game is not a cakewalk. In the beginning, when you have kind of a weak offensive ability, a weak shot, it's a little bit tough. But as you get abilities, it kind of builds out the things Firebrand can do. It makes it a little bit easier. Let's slow down. We'll use flight to get over spiked floors and take out all these bats. In this area, we have torches that go out. And when the lights go out completely, it gets swarmed by bats. So we use Firebrand's basic fire ability to light all of these torches and candles and keep all of the enemies off us. Like these bats here, they sort of just hang out, but when the lights go out completely, then they swarm you and ruin your day. Hey, Nocturnal's here. Nocturnal says, "Oh, this game is hard. I beat it before." This game is fun. It can get challenging. It's definitely not easy by any means. But there is a lot. And there's three endings, 3 major endings you can get. And if you want the complete true ending, you have to get everything in the game. And there's actually a secret boss you can fight. So we're going to do that here on the playthrough. I don't know if we're going to actually get through the entire game today. We'll see how long it takes. I'm thinking two stream sessions to get through Demon's Crest, but we'll see. These sort of blue spoopy ghosts eat your fire. They douse your candles here. I'll just keep going. Alright, moving through the door. We are hitting another boss. This one is called Ovnunu. It's a big eye creature thing with a bunch of smaller eyes. And basically we are traveling up this vertical shaft while it slowly chases after us. We get to the actual encounter. At the start of the fight, Ovnunu sends out the smaller eyeballs to basically home in on your position and mob you this way. It takes three shots with the standard flame to kill them. It's not too bad. Just keep moving and line shots up. Okay, that's all the small eyes. Now the big one. Well, the main eye pretty much just flies around, and every so often it'll shoot a stream of eye juice at you. It's already turning red. Uh-oh. There we go. That would have been really annoying to lose that fight. Have to do it all over again. But for taking out Ovnunu, we have a piece of the fire crest called Buster. With it, you can break through stone. So what we can do is go back to stage 1, and I'll demonstrate what the Buster does. This is sort of like the default weapon that I use, because it does a little more damage and has a bigger hitbox than the standard flame, but it can't ignite things. So you can't light torches or anything like that. But it fires pretty quickly. You can fire rapid shots too. And it will break certain barriers and blocks. So that section on the cliffside that we couldn't get through, we can do that now. We might as well while we're here. And here's where we fought Hippogriff. We don't have to fight the bosses again. Once they're done, they're done. And now we're already back here on the cliffside. So I'm just going to fly over most things. And get to the vertical cliffside. And down there is where we got our first potion vial. And here's where we want to go. And using the Buster, we can now break through the wall, and we get another health container, which is definitely welcome. And we can't just quick exit the level like Mega Man X style. We just have to get to the end where the boss encounter would be, and then it'll take us back out to the map. And with that, I believe we're completely done with Area 1. Now let's see, before we go into the next area, I'm going to try and take care of a secret that we'd have to come back for later, but we can do it now. This little crescent-shaped lake holds a hidden NPC area. This is a minigame. And this is the hardest difficulty. There's a couple of these scattered around that you can go to earlier, but if you beat the hardest level, you get a container. So if we're completing everything, we need to do this at some point. So let's see if I can do it quickly now. 20 gold. And basically, it's like whack-a-mole with headbutts. We have to get a certain amount before the torches burn out on the right there. I don't think we're going to get this round. Alright, it was close. I think we can just do it without missing. Oh, I think we were like 1 or 2 off. Alright, we'll try it one more time. I can always do this off camera too. It's just handy to do this early on when you have the cash, because more health is always nice. We will come back. Alright, let's go back to town. Now that we have the Buster, let's show off what's in that shop. If we equip the Buster, now we can knock down this wall. And this dude is shopkeeper of the Black Lotus potions. So a couple of these do different things, like I think minor recovery, invincibility, damage. The one we want is ginseng. Ginseng, the most expensive one on here, is a full restore. In a pinch, you're fighting a difficult fight. You can recover all of your health with that one. And that was all of our money. So now we'll head back through the outskirts of town. Instead of taking the... Actually, it'd be a little bit of backtracking, but we'll go ahead and go down through the subterranean path again. And clear out some of the stuff we needed the Buster for, just since we're here. There is more level in town beyond here. But we'll kind of be systematic. Make sure we're not missing anything. Here, we have a spell scroll of Vellum. Now we're back here again. Put standard fire on so we can keep the torches lit. Okay, that leads to the end. This path to the left we couldn't get to before. That gives another health container. Nice. Now we just need to make our way back to where we fought the boss, the eyeballs, and that should clear out this particular area. And since the boss is already dead, we get here and then we get fast travel back out to the map. So now we can actually go back and complete town. Keep heading to the right, past the water area. We'll come back to this area again a little bit later, once we have the ability to go in the water. There's some stuff underneath, but we We can't get at it for now, so we'll just keep going. And now head to the right. This is the graveyard. These big sort of headstone things can be broken. G gargoyle. We have these little demon gremlin enemies that toss skulls at you. This top bone pile has a health container. So the strategy here is just to break everything, make sure you don't miss any items. These sort of floating zombie armor things can only be shot from the back. If you shoot in the front, it'll just bounce off. Alright. And now we have another boss. The levels tend to vary in length. This game has a lot of boss encounters. We're usually moving between fight and fight. But now we got a big skeleton man with a scythe hand. This is Belth. And he basically tries to run you down. I'll try and get close and... Ooh, I'm going to use my ginseng here. Or not. I guess it's X, not Y. Whoops. At least it sticks me back here. There's no real penalty for dying in this game. There's infinite continues. And sometimes it'll kick you back to the start. But other than that, it's pretty forgiving in that regard. Let's try that again. Oh, expecting him to dodge, to lunge at me. Alright, well, it's a bit of a DPS race there, but if we just keep the pressure on Belth, he's not too bad. Okay, we are done with town for now. If we take a look at the map, we can continue in order. I think I was wrong. Up north in 3, that's the jungle. The ruins are over here, or to the right. Oh, no, these aren't the ruins. This is the Sky Pillar area. Okay. We'll do things in order. It tends to be a little bit easier, but it doesn't really matter. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of non-linear and you can choose your own path. But there's some useful stuff to get in the jungle as well. So we'll come here. In the jungle, we've got these vine barriers that block our forward progress. You can cut these, but you need a certain type of weapon, which we don't have at the moment. And down here is another branching path. And a potion vial. Grab that while we're here. I'm going to head to the right first. And we will come back to do the alternate path later. I'll switch to Buster. Easier to shoot stuff. Alright. In this next section of the jungle, a fire elemental creature of sorts flies in and sets the whole jungle ablaze. Now everything's on fire. It gives a pretty cool sort of heat distortion effect in the background. And we gotta watch out for hazards falling from the ceiling and things from below, those kind of root tendril looking things. With Buster, we can break the armor on those floating corpse enemies as well. And down here we have another branching path. It actually connects to the path at the beginning. We can go ahead and go in here. These sort of subterranean caves are part of the branching paths. And this one is our first talisman. This one is Skull. I believe Skull is higher chance for health recovery items to drop. Which is pretty handy. We don't have anything else, so we'll take that for now. And now hit the boss. This is Flame Lord, a fiery skull, flame elemental type of creature. It spits out these firebirds and kind of Heatman style tries to tackle you with these lunging dives. Overall, not too bad. After you've done enough damage, it'll change forms into this floating, lost soul-looking orb. It'll fly around the screen, either trying to run you over or dropping fire everywhere. Oh, come on. Alright, we'll use our potion here just so I don't have to do this fight again. X. There we go. If you do enough damage, the boss is dead. This particular crest is a piece of the fire crest called Tornado. This allows you to create platforms to ascend vertically. It's marginally useful for maybe the first quarter of the game, and then like literally 2 zones from now we're going to get an ability that renders it kind of obsolete. But we'll head back to the jungle. There's one thing to get near the boss, and then we can go back and do that underground path. And this part's unchanged. We still don't have the ability to go underwater. So just keep flying through. Alright, if we return to the area of the jungle that was set ablaze before, now the entire canopy that was on fire is gone. And uncovered by all of the deforestation is a heart container. Actually, we can test out our new ability again in order to get that. So, I don't think Tornado actually does damage. No, it doesn't do any damage. But when you spit them out, you create these little spinning platforms that last for a few seconds. And you can climb. Because we can't fly in multiple directions, that's pretty much your way of getting into high, out of the reach places for now. But, like I said, we're going to get an ability that makes it completely obsolete soon. But for now, that is everything to get in this section of the stage. Alright, returning back to the jungle. Now we can head to the underground path. Ooh, let's slow down though. Good old Super Nintendo slowdown. There's too much on screen. Alright. Bust this open. And now we are headed into these sort of underground subterranean caverns. Which are full of water. Oh, what's down here? Get off me. Okay, nothing, just health. Our standard flame will not work underwater, but the buster will. Like I mentioned before, if we are submerged in water, Firebrand takes damage. We want to avoid being underwater at all costs. Some up here. Another scroll. Oh boy. Thought I could outjump the water. That's alright. That scroll was the point of interest down here, and now we just need to get through this section. Ah, stupid spike ceilings. Okay. Now we just need to ride the current all the way up and out. There's gotta be a health recovery thing around here somewhere. Oh, that's money. Okay. Oh. Alright. Is it going to start me right in this doorway? Or right outside? Okay, that's good. Another health container. But it's going to be death. Oh, that's right. Okay. That spot is that underwater section in the jungle that we just fly over. It also leads into this area. You're supposed to come back here once you can breathe underwater, but if we get it now, we have the additional health. And now we got another boss. This is Skula. Kind of crab-like creature that tosses its head around. Keep laying fire down on the head. It's possible to kill the head and body separately. Whichever one takes more damage. And then deal with the other part. Whew. Ah, I was hoping it wouldn't jump, hit me in the feet. Sour Lad said this water level and forest was annoying. Have you played this before, Sour Lad? I guess I didn't ask. It sounds like Nocturnal had played this game before, but have you played this game? If so, did you get everything? Did you get the true ending? Another strategy that I kind of forgot you can do is you can wear the body and the head down sort of at the same time. That way when you kill one, then the other doesn't take long to kill right after. But I think the body takes more punishment than the head. Oh. Now we just have the head. For this, you can probably switch to the ground gargoyle and just hit it with the ground shot. It'll do more damage. There it goes. And for our troubles, we got another health container. We're already three pips into the second row. Ah, Sarlad said we talked about it on a previous stream. Also, I had no idea what to do. I just played till I beat the game. Probably got the middle ending. I see. You would know if you got the true ending because there's a secret boss to fight, and you actually get a special piece of art and like a mini cutscene at the end. So we'll definitely show off what that looks like here. I'm gonna go back and try that game again. Be nice to have the health. This house, I think this is another version of the game, like the second level. But we want to beat the hardest one. I'm gonna be short again. I'm slightly offline. Missing too much. Oh no, I needed that one. Man, again, I'm like 1 or 2 off. I left a good start and I started missing. Got it. 1 candle to spare. Alright. Now we don't have to do that anymore. Okay, so we've cleared 3. Now we need to do 4. This area is kind of like a sky temple up in kind of a higher up mountainous region. Need the buster to break open this section. And we have another potion vial in here. We're up to 3. Yep. At some point, go back to town. Buy a bunch of the healing potions, some of the later areas. And now we're up in the clouds near the top of this sort of sky temple. And the currents are blowing me to the right. I'm not hitting anything right now, I'm just hovering. And it's moving me to the right. Healing, go ahead and head to the right. That is a branching path down there, the little tornado thing. We'll come back for that. I got another boss up here. This one is called Flyer, I believe. We have kind of mantis dragonfly demon. This boss pretty much just flies in these different patterns, tries to run into you. It can also toss its arms, like that. And they'll bounce on the screen for coming back like a boomerang. boss is starting to turn color. I think it starts moving faster as it loses health. It certainly seems that way. There we go. Alright, we're taking out this boss. We have another piece of the Crest of Fire. This is called Claw. With it you can climb up walls. This is another one kind of like the tornado, which is rendered useless pretty quickly. I'll show off what it does. Can't remember if this one does damage. But it only works on unclimbable walls. So spikes are those chompy plant things in the first level. Any area that would be a hazard normally to Firebrand. We'll see if we can demonstrate that. But nope, these are all regular walls. Okay, well, it's not going to be any good here. But basically, you spit that onto a spike wall, and it creates a grabbable surface for you to latch onto. And you can climb up spike areas, which is alright. It's really not that useful. Alright, now we want to head to the right, follow the same path, and then we're going to head in that lower tornado section we bypassed earlier. There. Alright, down here we have a rematch against Hippogriff. This one is slightly stronger, but more or less the same fight. I think it's a different color too. It's got gold wings. A little bit faster with the dash, but more or less the same fight. Same deal. If you do enough damage, turns back to stone. Boom. It's really more of a mini boss. We don't get any sort of drop for killing Hippogriff here. But now we're moving on to this kind of organic vine pillar type area. And we're pretty much heading up. Can't climb on the walls. I don't think we can use claw here. Nope. Could use tornado. Yeah, tornado does not do any damage. And this is the top. Okay, before we go up and out, we have this area which is upwards currents. If we hover, the updraft will blow a firebrand upwards. There should be something at the top here. Yep, another spell scroll. dive bombing skull head thingies. Out the bottom, there's another path back under the entire level. And down here we have our next talisman. This is Crown. This one is higher chance of gold drops for money. A pretty handy way to stack up some cash, assuming you don't need the life. Now we can head up and out. A pretty cool shot of the moon in the back. I like that design. Okay, now we're at the top. And it's boss time. We have our rematch against Arma. Now he's green. Nice to see you again, Firebrand. There shall be no mercy for you this time. Alright. So in this form, Arma is a little bit faster and stronger, and he has a couple new attacks. His dive bomb comes out much faster. Still has the beam projectile from his mouth. Does he have a new projectile? I can't remember. It might just be strength and speed in this form. Oh, there we go. There's the tornado. That pulls you to the side. And it'll launch you straight up. Oh man, it's bad you can't duck. You hit me right in the top of the head. Okay, no dialogue. Just jump straight in the fight. Down here. I got a tornado. There we go. Can it be? My whirlwind move has been defeated? What are you? Goodbye for now, Firebrand. Alright. For taking out Arma a second time, we have the Crest of Air. With it, you can morph into the A Gargoyle and soar higher into the air. There's some theories on why Arma is actively giving you all the crests. I'll kind of talk about that as we get later in the game. There's no in-game cutscenes or anything explaining it, but as we'll see, there's some interesting motivations for the characters. Alright, so that was 4. Now, 5 and 6 are unlocked. 5 are these sort of watery ruins. We can do this one. We can show off the aerial gargoyle. As the name would suggest, in this form, Firebrand takes on kind of like a bird-like form. It's kind of more like a wyvern because he's got wings attached to his arms. And his projectile becomes this sharp-bladed boomerang-looking projectile which can cut things. It can cut the vines in the jungle. And I think does more damage than the standard shot. In this form, by hitting A, you can fly upwards. And this is the ability that I think renders the last 2 Fire Crest power-ups pretty much useless. Because you can fly straight up. You don't need the claw or tornado anymore. You basically hit A to ascend and hit A again to cut height. You can't fly in 8 directions, but you can move up and down. Alright, we're kind of like these temple ruins, another kind of temple. But this one's on the water. Down there is another branching path. We can't get at it now because we can't breathe underwater, but we will return once we can. And right here, we've got another health container. There it is. There's a pitfall. Fortunately, we can just fly through it. Alright, so this type of area is what I was talking about with claw. It doesn't last very long, but if you spit it onto the spikes, you can create a grabbable surface. Alright, let's see if I can do this part. If we break the first thing, now this weird sort of slug creature falls down. But if we just sort of let it hit us and then pass through, we can get up into the area that was above where it fell. And that gets us yet another heart container. So now we only have 4 left, and then we're full up on heart containers. Alright. We don't get the cutscene, which is basically the slug thing. Kind of walks all the way to the right, it eats a bunch of corpses, and then it turns into this big actual blob creature called Crawler. And Crawler attacks by slamming the ground and throwing little slimelings at you. And this boss is actually kind of durable and tough. Its pattern isn't too hard, but it takes a lot of punishment. And it can only be hit when its eyes open. Actually, maybe I should go boomerang. Wow, doesn't kill those. Nope, that doesn't even do damage. Just stick with the buster. There are a couple different arcing paths. Crawler can toss those slime minions. The one to watch out for is the one that goes straight forward. It'll hit you right in the face if you're flying at eye level. I do think that's a pretty cool looking sprite. I like the detail and texture work on it. It's very kind of horrific looking. Now we're getting tons of projectiles. Ooh. That's what I was talking about. Almost hit me right in the head. I think it's getting weak. Looks like it's a little more orange. There we go. Ooh. I see Starlight is redeemed to stretch and to hydrate. I'll drink some more mica fuel. Alright, for taking out Crawler, we have the Crest of Water. With it, you can morph into the Tea Gargoyle and swim beneath the oceans. Alright, before we head back into the water temple here, let's take a quick side trip back to town. One, we can pick up some healing potions. And two, we can check out some stuff there that we missed earlier. $478. That's probably good enough. Alright, fill up on ginseng. If you get into any extraordinarily tough fights, that'll be helpful. If we head to the right, out of town, now we can check out these water areas. If we switch to the Tidal Gargoyle, now Firebrand's form is kind of this amphibious fish or frogman. Looks kind of like Rikuo from Darkstalkers. In this form, he can freely move beneath the water and he won't die. His projectile becomes a sort of larger water burst projectile. I think it does more damage underwater. And if you hit A, which is your headbutt ability or your ascension ability with the flying gargoyle, you can swim laterally. And you might not think that's important or impressive, but it will come in handy in the next area we're going to. Underwater, that projectile one-shots these merfolk. Alright, down here, we have another potion vial. We're at 4 or 5. One more. Okay, I can't remember if there's anything here. Let's check. Nope, nothing over here. There is another talisman here. That's called Hand. And I don't remember what that one does. I think it lets you use your spells faster. We're not really using magic. I'll go to the appraiser guy and find out. So now we just need to head to the right, over to where we fought Belth, and exit the stage. We'll go back into the main town to appraise our talismans. Get crown. Collect money more easily. Hand enables you to use your magic more quickly. Yeah, faster spell casting, not super useful. One thing we can do is if we talk to the vagrant demon here, he tells you different things depending on the crest you're using. And he says, "Whoa, you can swim? There are those that say there are treasures under the sea. Maybe you can find them. If you wear or equip Ariel, hey you look like a good flyer. You should be able to fly in strong winds with wings like those. And if you put on the Earth Crest, the general was wearing a uniform something like yours. I saw him run and break one of those fountains into pieces once." Which we can do. Alright, let's go back to 4 or 5. 5. And we'll take an alternate path to get underneath the stage and go into the water route. We could either go forward and then drop down, or we can just drop straight in the water here. That kind of coral formation looking stuff is a hazard spikes. Alright, now we're underneath the temple. This area is completely filled with water. And normally, when you have the tidal gargoyle equipped, you can jump and you'll get this sort of swimming motion that moves you upwards. But if you want to be able to control your direction, you use the A button to do the lateral swimming motion. It makes it much easier because there's lots of spikes in this area, and you run the risk of swimming up or down into stuff versus just using the one that moves you in one direction. Like this. We could hop through that, but those kind of low ceiling tight spots, if you just swim horizontally, it's easier. And another heart container. 3 left. Okay, now we're moving further through the temple. All these breakable blocks. And this is kind of what I was talking about with the tight spots and being able to swim horizontally. And a few more of these spots where you have to break blocks and swim through. Over here. There we go. And now we got another boss. It's like a big prehistoric snail type creature. This is Holothurian. Really cool looking sprite. I like the way that looks. And the way Holothurian attacks is it siphons the water in and then blows it out to kind of push or pull you around the entire arena while secreting these sort of mucus things from its shell that become hazard projectiles on the screen while it's pushing and pulling you around. You can withdraw into the shell, and then it'll pop out and pretty much resume. It's got a pretty simple pattern, but as you do damage, it'll start becoming more aggressive with how it pulls you in and out. Like so. Like pulling you all the way through is trouble. But it doesn't take long, just keep shooting it. And it's dead. Alright. Next heart container. 2 left. Okay, I think there's only 1 spot left to go. 6. We have pretty much gotten everything up to this point. So if we head to the north, 6 is this sort of ice palace in the frozen hinterlands. And there's some tough fights in here. If we equip Arrow Gargoyle and fly straight up from the start, there's our final potion vial. How would you know that's there? You either read it somewhere or spend your time flying around to find it. Okay, can't remember if there's a power-up hidden beneath these bone piles. We'll bust them just to be sure. Oh, nothing there. Oh, I have hand equipped. I didn't see that. I didn't switch it back. We'll keep crown on for now and just stack up cash. Alright, at this point, there is a branching path. We'll take the lower, which brings us through more of this sort of ice field area. Ooh. Ah. Health? There you go. Alright, I think there's something up there. Okay, another scroll. That is our final Spell Vellum scroll. So we've got all of those, and we're just missing 2 talismans, 1 piece of the fire crest, and 2 more regular crests up here. Oh, we got a boss. This is Greron, a sort of wolf creature that does a ton of damage. Every time you hit it, it becomes invincible, and you have to wait for it to stop glowing before you can hit it again. And it can breathe ice, and is pretty quick and will jump off the walls. I'm going to probably burn a couple potions on this fight. If you come back here with a stronger weapon, it's not as difficult. But right now... Oh, it's taking like 4? Ugh. Three. Oh, really? Oh, come on. This is a bit of a drawn-out fight, because I don't have a super powerful weapon. But as soon as it starts to change color, we're close. Oh boy, where's my potion at? That could have been bad. Man, what a waste. Well, I guess I have to do it here. I think it's starting to turn color. Oh boy. Oh man, it's close. If it hits me once, I'm dead. Ooh. Oh boy. Oh boy. Ah. Shouldn't have done that. Should have waited for it to jump off the other wall. Okay. Where's it gonna drop me? Sorry, that said very annoying and cheap. Yeah, that's one of the tougher fights. Probably the hardest monster we've fought in so far. Just because you can't chain hits. You can only hit it once, and if you don't have a strong weapon, you're basically playing chicken for a long time. Okay, I don't have any more healing. What I should have done was go out to the map. We can take a different route. We can take the top path, and then come back with a stronger weapon. That's fine. I wonder if... Nope. Boomerang does not work. See, the strongest shot I have is my G-Gargoyle, but it is not very agile, and I can't fly. Alright. Also worth noting, if you hit Goron while it's green, it'll stay green. It won't turn vulnerable again. So that's why I was doing one shot and then backing off. Alright. We will take the upper path. Just bypass everything, and then up here is the path to a different section. It's kind of a ice palace looking area. We have a breakable wall, which I believe this is just here if you wanted to get money. I don't think there's anything here. But we get another health container. One left. And we need our dash in order to break these ice statue things. From here, we're going to be using a combination of all of our different elemental abilities. We'll need to break things. We'll need to fly. We won't be swimming for, I think, the rest of the game. It's only really used in one section. There's a couple of alt paths on the map you can use the tidal gargoyle to get to, but as far as required paths, it's pretty much only the temple. Oh, another boss here. This is a rematch against Flyer. Yep, different color. We can use our boomerang on this boss. Turning color already? Yep. Not bad. Stronger projectile helps. And just health refill. And here is another dark section that we need standard fire in order to light these candles and keep the bats off us. These things, I believe they ignite if you light them on fire. Yep. And those grabby hands will pull you down and ruin your day. I'll avoid those. Yep, it's annoying. Okay, I think that's it for this section. I don't think there's anything else to get. I'll make sure before I move on. Oh, really? there's something over here. That's right. Okay, another talisman. This one is armor. This one reduces damage, so we're gonna throw that on. That'll be handy. You can see now we have half pips on our life bar when we get hit by stuff. That would have been useful against Goron. Alright. It's armor again. Third time. Arma says, "This is our final meeting. You shall go no further. I will destroy you or die trying." Okay. In this form, Arma, his sprite's a little bit different. He's got some actual armor on and he's silver. He's faster, stronger, and he's got some new projectiles. Because the breath projectile's red now, for whatever reason. Still has the whirlwind attack. But using the aerial gargoyle, we're immune to the wind pressure. He has that ability, that sort of blade projectile. He can interrupt his dive bombs to toss that out. That's pretty much it. Get down here. Alright, maybe not that fast. There we go, got him. Arma says, "You do possess incredible power, Firebrand. My power is now yours. Let me seal it within this crest." You found the Crest of Time. With it, you can morph into the L Gargoyle and your skin shall become like iron and decrease damage done to you by half. Alright. So let's go back to town. Let me see how many potions I can buy. I'll go back and do that fight against Goron, but I'll go in with some potions. If we use the Crest of Time for Legendary Gargoyle, in this form, Firebrand, he's spikier, he's got horns, gold wings, and his projectile becomes this large sort of Hadoken fireball looking thing, which I believe is more damage. Other than that, he doesn't gain any other abilities. He still can fly, he can't fly up or down, but he has higher defense and a good offensive projectile. If you talk to the Vagrant Demon, he says, "No, you're dead. You can't be that red demon. Please don't kill me." "Yeah, heard you're talking smack." $340. Let's break some of the windows here. See if I can get enough for like 4 potions. that helps. And those big ones are 25. 20 or 25. Alright, how many can we get? That's not bad, 3 of them. Ideally, we want full stock before we go into the final level. But if we take the Armor Talisman and the Legendary Gargoyle, then Goron should be pretty easy to beat, or at least easier than trying to do it without all those power-ups. Let's give it a try. Take a look at the map. A new place of interest has popped up on the map. This is Phalanx's castle. That appears after you've beaten a certain number of stages. I can't remember if it's after you... No, it can't be after you beat Arma. There's some sort of condition. You can actually go to that level and beat it before you fight Arma. Changes the ending. Alright. In this form, I'm pretty sure our breath weapon is one of the strongest in the game. Whatever it is, it'll definitely do more damage. So we can actually just fly over everything. Let's dodge the armors. Keep flying to the right. Over here. Switch to Legendary Gargoyle and basically do the same thing. The boss is already changing color. Yeah. In retrospect, we should have done this fight second. Oh well. You got the piece of the fire crest called Demon Fire. This is the most powerful fire in the realm. I think that particular weapon is technically stronger than the Legendary Gargoyle's breath weapon. But you don't get the added benefit of defense up. Okay, let's see. Let me think here. Let me go back to town real quick and try and get enough to get full potions. We're actually getting ready to go into the final level. I think we might actually beat it this time. It'll depend. There is a slight caveat, but we'll see. Making good time. 2 hours. If you know what to do, you can actually beat Demon's Crest relatively quickly. I just find it to be pretty fun. Fun to play through. Interesting set pieces, enemies, and music and all that. If I were to think of a game from the retro library that I'd like to see given to like an Inti Creates or a studio to like do like a reboot or like a continuation, it would definitely be this one. Even in a sequel. The continued exploits of Firebrand, the Gargoyle, I think would be pretty fun. Okay, full up. Just so I don't accidentally use one of my potions, I'll swap to a spell scroll. Again, I haven't spent money on them because I really don't find the spells that useful. But if we wanted to, we could farm up more money and buy them, but it's really not going to matter. We can just keep going. Alright, so now we are headed to new spot on the map, Phalanx's Castle. And here it's sort of a ornate cathedral type level. They're a really cool kind of harpsichord organ theme that sounds very similar to the church theme that we heard in Breath of Fire 2. It makes me wonder if it was a similar composer that did the soundtrack, because a lot of the music in this reminds me of that game. I'm just gonna keep going. Annoying jester enemies. I see Saraletta's redeemed a stretch. Oh, my back. Here we have our third and final match against the Hippogriff. Now it's gold with silver feathers. Pretty much the same fight. Maybe a little bit faster and stronger, but almost an identical attack pattern. That's dead. Alright, moving on. The castle. Now we're in the sort of bell tower looking area. Becomes pretty trivial. Using the aerial gargoyle, just fly straight up. We do have spooky ghosts and these axe throwers, but other than that, pretty easy. And here is a secret. The game never really gives you any hint you can do this, but if you headbutt the bell, it'll ring. And the last heart container is hidden inside the bell. And now we have full heart containers. And there's strong wind currents up here. Go back to aerial gargoyle, then we can fly around without getting pushed side to side. Now if we drop down here, there's a secret area. And this gives us our last talisman. This is Fang. This one I think is offense. I think it's stronger breath power. We're gonna need defense for now. I think that's what that one does. It's stronger offensive power. Now here, we can headbutt this one. I think this one just gives us a full heal. Yep. We just drop all the way down. We've got zombie sarcophagi. pretty much just bypass all this stuff. And here in this really cool sort of cathedral with all the candles, we have a rematch against Groron. Now it's yellow and white. And breathes kind of a sulfur fire instead of ice. Pretty much the same fight, except we don't have a wall to kind of jump up. Instead, we got to kind of bait it back and forth and lay hits on. But we have a stronger weapon, so it's pretty much a trivial fight. With that, we have collected everything. We actually can't collect this last slot, and I'll explain why later. But now it's go time. Final boss. And this is Phalanx. Kind of a twin horn, silvery demon with wing arms. He says, "I've waited a lifetime for this moment, Firebrand. You and I were destined to clash. And you, it seems, are destined to die." Very supervillain monologue-y. Alright, now we are squaring off against Phalanx. Who's much bigger than Firebrand. He basically flies back and forth, and these torch things kind of box us into the arena. And he spits projectiles. Tries to tackle you with his wing blades? You know, a whole bunch of projectiles too. Alright, he's down. Phalanx says, "Yes, you have the power I seek. The crest of heaven. This is the final crest that we didn't have." He was holding on to it. Round 2. Phalanx says, "Is this all the skill you possess? Fight harder and die with honor." Now we got water. In addition to moving a little bit quicker and having faster projectiles, the arena will now fill and empty with water from the fountains here. Which means we have to be careful not to get stuck below the surface. Because the legendary gargoyle can't breathe underwater. That's it for the water hazard. Ooh, that's right. Phalanx can also cast sort of black hole that'll freeze you in place, create this trap hazard. Yes, he can also try and blow you into spikes. Ah, down he goes. You think you've destroyed me, but it was merely a shadow. This is pretty much this isn't even my final form. That's pretty cool. Cool looking sprite work. Finally, the ultimate power. Behold, the Crest of Infinity. Now it's final boss time. But they don't refill my health, so I might have to just let him kill me. I can try and beat the final boss. It's just one row of pips. Now the world stands helpless against my power. I need you no longer, Firebrand. You are now merely a nuisance. You must die. Alright, this is Ultimate Phalanx. So he is as tall as a screen now. And basically, strategy is to get in his face and shoot him right in the face. But it's difficult because he's constantly shooting projectiles, laser beams, these little orb projectiles. So the way I do this is to pretty much line myself up and YOLO it. If you have full potions, it's pretty much just a DPS race. Too low. Oh, what? 2 potions. Because Phalanx puts his arms up to block, if you just get right inside his guard, it doesn't matter if he puts his arms up or his other arms down. You just shoot him right in the face. Oh man. 3 potions. Oh man. Not letting me in. Oh, what? One more potion left. Oh, it's starting to turn color. It's gonna be close. Uh-oh. Ha, gotcha. Ugh, that was close. Alright, now we have a little bit of a cutscene with Phalanx's castle crumbling. Phalanx almost summoned the power of infinity. He was destroyed by the power of Firebrand. Before it came under his control. With all the Crest safely in his possession, Firebrand mused over the power at his command. It would be a simple thing to use it to reign supreme. It's weird breaks in the actual dialogue. But in the end, Firebrand decided that his destiny lies elsewhere. The Crest of Infinity. When all 6 crests are united, the Crest of Infinity is said to appear. And give the bearer unimaginable power. Oh, this is Firebrand tossing away the crests. So now we get a rundown of what each of the crests do. Ruling over the earth, this crest gives great physical strength. Great strength. We can see the prompts on the screen as we go. The theory that I have about why Phalanx didn't just outright kill Firebrand is because when he backstabbed him, Firebrand retained a fraction of the Crest of Fire, and the Crest of Fire fragmented into pieces. And so Phalanx's ultimate goal was to get the power of infinity, which can only be awakened once all of the crests are brought together. So I think he purposely gave Arma the crest to give Firebrand and and force Firebrand to get stronger and then bring all the Crest together so that he could kill Firebrand ultimately and then awaken the power at the end. It's not the smartest move because ultimately Firebrand was stronger than him, but I think that was the reason. There's no like extended lore, but it is interesting to kind of theorize. And we get a rundown of all of the boss names too, which is kind of cool. There's a crest of water ruling over the ocean. The crest allows the owner to swim beneath the seas. There's Holothurion. Is it two? Two bosses per? Looks like it's two bosses. The Crest of Time. Ruling over the past, the crest enables the owner to go back in time. And his crawler. And there's Greron. It is interesting that the sort of showcases of the different abilities, it's kind of like the game is recommending when to fight which boss, but that's not the order we did, so it's fine. The Crest of Flame, or Fire. Ruling over Flame, the crest allows the owner to control fire. Oh, I didn't get to show off what that demon fire looks like. I'll do that later. We went right to the legendary gargoyle. And there's Hippogriff. I don't know. It's not canonically the same one because we destroyed the statue each iteration. And here's Arma. Fun fact, one of the endings you can get, if you speed run all the way to Phalanx's castle and you kill him without beating Arma, you get another ending where Arma basically says, you know, it was me the whole time. Now that Phalanx is dead, I can take over. And you get a pretty cool cutscene that shows him his fully rendered artwork, which is neat. All right, and then we got an interesting little dragon logo for the end. We did not get a staff crawl. Presented by Capcom, the Crest of Heaven. There's no sound. Now is it going to give me another fade out? Yes. All right. So for getting everything in the game and clearing all the dungeons, fighting all the bosses, and killing phalanx, we get this. And I don't know if it's going to keep it if I restart. This password is important because there's still stuff to do. And let me see if it's going to... Let me just quit to title if I have to actually reset the SNES. It doesn't look like it. So if we soft reset, go to continue. Oh, that's nice. It did stick that in there. All right. So now, if we do this, it takes us all the way out to the map. It doesn't start us in the arena with Somalo like it normally does. If we load in, notice we have full health, all health containers, all parts of the crests, all of the spell scrolls, all the potions, all the talismans. And this gives us the ultimate gargoyle, the Crest of Infinity. Sarlad says, thanks for the stream, gotta go. Alright, Sarlad, thanks for stopping by and tuning in. Since you have played this, I would check out the VOD later after the stream's done, because I'm going to unlock the true ending. Since unless you did everything, you probably wouldn't have seen this. So you might find it interesting. We'll check it out later. But yeah, I'll catch you later. And hope you have a good evening. Alright, we can look at this real quick. Demon's Fire has this sort of dragon projectile. I think it's the most damaging projectile in the game. It's pretty strong. But if we go over here, Ultimate Gargoyle, we have a slightly different colored version of the legendary gargoyle. It's the same sprite, just kind of dark purple and blue wings instead of gold. We have a different projectile. I think it might be the same strength as the Demon Fire, but it's a bit more of like a fireball. It's even more like a Hadoken now. If we fly, we can now fly up and down like the aerial gargoyle. If we hit down and A, we can break things like the G gargoyle. If we talk to this guy, he says, hey, you're the one that defeated Phalanx, aren't you? I owe you my thanks because I did not like the laws we were forced to keep. No offense, but demons shouldn't have the power to rule, you know what I mean? Sure, buddy. So basically, the Ultimate Gargoyle combines the attributes of all of the individual forms into one. I'm not going to be able to demo it right at this moment, but I also have the ability to go underwater and do that horizontal swimming technique that the Tidal Gargoyle has. So basically, this is your ultimate form. If I hold down fire, I can charge up and shoot out a super powerful breath projectile. And so basically what the password does is it gives you New Game Plus. You start the game over with nothing beaten, but everything unlocked. And you can play through the game from start to finish with this new gargoyle form and basically own everything if you wanted. Or, and this is the reason why I'm getting money here, there is one more fight that leads to the true ending of the game. And that's what we're going to do here as the final part of the stream today. But in order to do that, we're going to need full potions because the true final boss is very difficult. I think it's a little less annoying than Ultimate Phalanx, but overall I think it's harder. Let's see, 291. With Crown on, it's not too bad. This is going to take a little while to sort of grind. But if we can get drops like that, it'll make things faster. The input's a little bit tricky since regular A by itself does the dash. In order to headbutt, you have to hit up, which is different from the regular version. All right, how are we doing? 518. What I'll do is I will get full potions, get ready to go in the next area, and I'll save state it so that if I die, I can just reload and I won't have to go back and regrind and fill up all my potions again. Let's see how many we can buy to start. Oh, just shy. I'll do it. Okay, full up on potions. I'll create my save state here. Alright, so we go out to the map and we take a look. It starts with all of the different zones unlocked. 1 through 6 and Phalanx's castle are just readily open and there for us to be able to access. There's also something way up on the northeast tip of the continent that is brand new. And that's our destination here. If we just spin around, we can go off through the other side of the map and we get here. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and equip armor and ultimate gargoyle. bust through the entry here. We've got an underwater section. I think this is here just to sort of show off that if you have this gargoyle, it's all you need. I'm gonna bust through this final door. And with no text crawl or anything, we're thrown into the final fight of the game. This is the Dark Demon. Not a very inspired name. But this thing flies around. It launches projectiles and tries to sit on you. And then after a while, changes form into this winged version. And in this version, it spits out tons of projectiles and slowly starts changing the walls and ceiling and floor into spikes. And every time you land a hit on its head, it shakes the room. And so now the fight's essentially a bullet hell. These scythe-like projectiles come at you from all angles. And unlike Ultimate Phalanx, you can't hit spam. And after a set amount of time, it turns back into this sort of demon chariot form and cycles between the two. And the Dark Demon can also summon down a cascade of blood, lava, something, whatever it is, and does damage. In this form, you can spam hits if you can get close enough. And then the boss will change form. Back we go. Those little blue ball projectiles are really annoying because they soak shots, keep you from hitting the boss. Alright, 2 potions. I don't know if it makes more sense to use the charged up shots versus just the single. I do know that it's very difficult to actually line the shots up because you're having to hold the fire button down and maneuver around and fly. So I usually don't bother. I just go for the single shots and just try and get more of them. Oh boy. 3 potions. Switch. Alright, 4 portions, 1 left. I think we're getting close. I need to take less hits when it's in its other form. Ah. I'm just gonna come down to my last potion. Gonna be close. I was doing it twice. Oh, we're almost the entire room of spikes. Ah, I'm gonna die. Ah. Alright. We'll load state. I'll try that again. It's hard to say which form for the Dart Demon is more difficult. I think its second form, or the skeleton form, is harder to hit because it's constantly moving around. We'll try that again. Hey, Fearful Milk redeemed a stretch. What's up, Milk? We'll get that stretch in. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. As I try and beat the true final boss of Demon's Crest. Ah. Milk says, cannot sleep, so trying to get my mind off the fact that I have to do bricklaying in 8 hours. That sounds like a lot of work. Well, either way, glad you could stop by, and hopefully I can actually beat this fight this round. Alright, let's see if we can try and get more hits when the boss stops to charge up for that blood waterfall thing it does. Alright. Just hoping for more hits. That'll work. Milk asks, how has Twitch been treating you recently? I got no complaints over here on Twitch. We have been doing pretty good on stream. We're officially kicking off Halloween with Spoopy Month. That's why we're doing Demon's Crest today. So for the whole month, we'll be doing kind of more spoopy-ish type games. I don't think I'm going to be doing any like straight-up horror stuff because I'm not a really big fan of those types of games, but it'll be aesthetically appropriate for the month of October. Well, I guess you can hit spam. I've never actually tried that, and it actually worked. Milk says, Horror Month is my favorite month. Big fan of horror myself. Yeah, I like horror media. Just not really a big fan of horror games. Depends. It's too bad RE4 Remake's not out. I definitely would have played that. Okay, I think we're making a little bit better pace for damage than the previous run. Now that I know you can spam the angel form a little bit more, that makes it a bit easier. Milk asks, on your travels through space, what was the best horror alien you came across? I would have to say best alien, in my opinion, would be the Xenomorph. From idea to execution to sheer tenacity when it comes to being a threat to all life. Pretty tough to compete with the Xenomorph. I do think the Predators and/or Yautjas, you know, the lore, are pretty cool too, but they're not as threatening to all life like the Xenomorphs. Come on. Last potion. Milk says, understandable. Mine would be the Planet Eaters from Junji Ito. I am not familiar with the Planet Eaters. I know Junji Ito, the horror legend himself, but I haven't read all of his work, so I don't know that one. I gotta be getting close. Wow, that does a lot of damage. Okay, I gotta make sure not to touch the boss. Boy, getting low. Whew. Wow. That was a little bit closer than I would have liked. Milk says, Gyo was the manga that got me into his work. That's understandable. Firebrand slayed the dark demon who had lurked deep within the human world. Realizing that his true power was not derived from the crests, Firebrand disposed of all the crests and set forth for the demon realm. There he hoped to find a true warrior, a warrior with whom he could once again taste the glory of battle. Alright, so now after doing that, we get the same crawl with the explanation of the crests, and then I think there's a slightly different end credit thing we'll let run. But for Milk, the work I remember seeing that first got me introduced to Junji Ito's work was the Enigma of Amagata Fault, the one with the holes in the mountain. I remember reading that one, and that's a pretty trippy manga. It's short. It's just a short, like, couple chapter one. But it's pretty horrifying. we'll let this play in the background. And then once we get to the end, there's a unique piece of art that you only get from doing the true ending. Milk says, "Oh my god, I love that so much. This hole was made for me." Yeah, it's a really good story. For something that's not really explicitly gory or violent, it's just such an unsettling story. Now, I can't remember if this is different. I think this boss showcase is the same. Milk says, "I think some of the best horror stories are the ones with the least blood." Yeah, it doesn't need to be really, really violent or gory. Psychological horror can be just as effective. And some of the best stories in horror aren't necessarily the most violent or bloody. You get something like The Shining, which is it's a little violent, but it's a lot more psychological, I think, in horror. Or quite a bit of the Hitchcock catalog is not overtly violent and gory. Some of it is, but a lot of it's just kind of getting in your head and scaring you that way. Okay, that was a crest of air. Now water. Well, maybe the gargoyle showcase part is new for the true ending. I know in the one we just watched, when we beat it normally for the regular ending, it shows the bosses. But I think this actual demo of the player swimming around, I think that's new. And we get a little kind of cutout. It says X gargoyle, like T gargoyle. I think that's new for the true ending. It's the same bosses from 4, Skula and Holothurion. Now, where's it going to show Crest of Time? Is it going to be one of the final levels? Oh, it's Phalanx's castle. That's something I didn't show off when we were playing through. The little imps running the crossbow. If they miss, they throw a little tantrum. It's kind of a funny animation detail. There, you can see him there. Subtle. L gargoyle. Why they didn't just write it out is beyond me. Maybe there weren't enough spaces for the characters. Oh, what's it gonna call regular just default firebrand. Regular gargoyle? Oh, and gargoyle normal. Yep, there's Somalo. Our tutorial fight. Hippogriff. Hippogriff and Arma. And then there's Phalanx. Oh, is it going to give us final boss form too? No. Okay. All right. Milk says, I need to head out. Hope stream goes well and the rest of your night. Well, that's good timing because this is the end screen that we get. This is a special piece of sprite work that we get for beating the game and getting the true ending and fighting the secret boss, that dark demon I was fighting before. It's a pretty cool rendition of Firebrand waving at the camera. I think it just loops. I don't think this fades back out to the title screen. Oh, maybe it does. Presented by Capcom with the Crest of Infinity. And I think it gives the same password again. I'll give it a sec to see if it changes. There isn't anything else to unlock. Doing the New Game Plus and fighting the secret boss is the end of the content for Demon's Crest. But still, overall, it's a pretty decent amount of game. I got through it in 3 hours because I know how to find everything. I know what routes to do in order to beat the game. But if you're playing this at a leisurely pace, you could probably spend maybe 6 to 8 hours in total if you're doing everything. Maybe a little bit less. It's hard to say. This game, I get the feeling back in the day people missed a lot of stuff because there was a lot of hidden things. But if you do everything, there's a lot to see. Okay, it doesn't look like it's going to give me a fade out. So we'll call that a stream. I think that will do for today. We'll be back on Wednesday with another new game. We'll talk more about it then, but it should be something a little bit more modern than what we've got here. But we'll go ahead and mute this. We'll go to outro and let me see who is over live on the homie list. Bits is live. I thought Bits was going to be streaming today. Well, good. We will go raid the round burb and say what's up. So let me go into outro. And we'll go ahead and call it good for today. So thanks again for everybody who came by and hung out. This was a fun game to play through. A good nostalgic blast from the past and one of my personal favorites. But we'll pick up again in a couple days and we'll keep these spoopy times rolling. So for now, we will call it a stream and I'll catch you folks later. Have yourselves a good evening.